Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq. Joining us for this segment, you have Jason Nabi, Chief Revenue Officer over at Bosonic. Jason, it's great to see you. Welcome to Trade Talks.
Oh, thanks for having me, Jill.
All right, let's talk about the digital asset markets. And you have been vocal about how digital asset markets are entering a new era. Explain what you mean by that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, in about 2015, the industry really started to look, the capital markets industry started to look at blockchain and the potential of blockchain as a technology. And in the last 7 years, there's been a huge amount of investments in what this technology can do to both enable and transform, as well as simplify the way in which global capital markets operates. And from issuance through to post-trade, there's now literally hundreds of use cases being worked on. And I think this is the foundation layer to digital assets and the digital asset sector, which is now becoming pretty obviously a multi-billion-dollar industry in itself. And what we've seen already in, if you look at last year, for example, in 2021, some $25 billion was invested in the digital asset sector, with startup companies in the blockchain, the crypto space, really benefiting from that investment. And I think what we're about to see is more digital money, digital assets as the norm. And in the next 5 years, I think what that translates to is logically more asset classes essentially becoming crypto assets or digital assets. And we kind of knew this back in 2015 when many of us in the industry started to look at blockchain and where the possibilities could go. But essentially what this helps do is create better utilization of capital, simplification of processes, including post-trade, and a real advantage to remove the risk and uncertainty in transactions and create what we're referring to as a trustless ecosystem with inbuilt verification. So I think we're at a really exciting point of the journey.
And Jason, related to that theme, you believe that post-trade and settlement represents the biggest pain point in digital assets. Can you elaborate on that, and how is Bosonic addressing that problem?
Yeah, indeed. And core infrastructure or digital asset infrastructure is essential for institutional client adoption of digital assets. And we're hearing and seeing and talking to a lot of people about that general move and general need. And today, the industry, or certainly the institutional clients that are looking to come into crypto and indeed develop from crypto into digital assets, have typically been looking at options to fund at multiple exchanges or custody with some of those exchanges or prime brokers. And essentially what that translates to or results in is the taking on a bilateral counterparty risk, typically against thinly capitalized counterparties. And at Bosonic, we've built and are now live with a core infrastructure service that connects clients and exchanges and market makers, and does so in a way through a payment versus payment settlement system for digital assets. And we do this in what we refer to as an atomic or an instantaneous swap, where transactions and settlements occur on the Bosonic network between counterparties, and thus avoiding clients having to fund at exchanges, and they don't have to take this bilateral risk. So I think this is, simply put, the technology being used towards advantage and moving away from those balance sheet-based models of the past. And we think we're kind of unique in some of this, and being unique in the context of we're liquidity and custodian agnostic. So we enable institutional clients to really go to the model of choice and enable fiduciary capabilities and fiduciary responsibilities that fits their needs as institutional clients. And we never take the, we don't take the counterparty as the trade. We're not the counterparty to the trades. We never touch clients' assets or clients' money. Assets and clients' money always stays with the custodians of their choice. So this fundamental removal or elimination of counterparty credit and settlement risk for institutional clients and exchanges alike, we think is quite fundamental going forwards.
And given your deep background in capital markets and across both traditional finance and crypto, let's talk about institutional adoption into digital assets. But where are we in that process, and what needs to fall into place to get more participants over that goal line?
Yeah, exactly. It's a great question. And, a little bit like the internet adoption, these things take time. And, going back to 2015, if you look at the last 7 years, I think we really at the end of might be regarded as an early adopter phase. And there's been some great innovators and some great first movers during that period. But I think we're now entering a really exciting period where early majority phase over the next 5 years, we'll see many more participants come into the digital asset ecosystem at a time when I think this infrastructure becomes more available. And at a time, I think, when we look at digitalization of other asset classes, such as bonds, equities, foreign exchange, and even the further development of derivatives, to enable, I think, just a more sensible, logical way for institutional clients to really get involved in not only cryptocurrencies, but also digital assets, as digital assets becomes more of a common theme. And I think with that, I always think of cryptocurrencies as the MVP. We're going to use a lot of that same technology to really transform the way markets and infrastructure operates. And I think that is, one of the most exciting times and one of the most exciting opportunities in capital markets for a long time.
Right. And let's talk about you for a moment, Jason. You recently joined Bosonic as Chief Revenue Officer with a charge to build out your client base in the UK, Europe, and Asia. How is that going? And what differences do you see between regions and the response to the solutions you're providing?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you. It's going great, to state the obvious. I think, I've been through, the e-trading boom in different asset classes. And when, we still started using electronic trading off the back of MiFID, and this I think is remarkable for many reasons, but quite analogous to what we've experienced in the past, perhaps. But I think what is really extraordinary in the digital asset space is that it's a community that's global. There are differences in terms of jurisdictions, and there's differences in terms of regulation and the treatment of cryptocurrencies, and we're seeing various initiatives at a state level as well as a local level. But nevertheless, I think what we're seeing is a fundamental movement to digital assets that's really building momentum, backed by a lot of, I think, incredible people. And we've got an industry of, incredible both engineering and technology talent as well as business talent all coming together around where this can go and what it can do. And I think Bosonic and the Bosonic network is a great example of that. We've got a diverse team, a global team, and we've got clients and partners, custodians, exchanges, market makers in places like Hong Kong, Singapore, Europe, Switzerland, the UK, and out into the States. So, I think this is, one of those incredible moments where we're experiencing not only hyper growth, but we're experiencing real innovation, and we're experiencing this in a community where we're all trying to collaborate and move to good standards. And we're all experiencing, I think, something in a similar way, albeit in slightly different makeups across these businesses. But it's a great time to be, I think, in digital assets right now.
I would agree with you. And in the last minute here, decentralized finance, or DeFi, is capturing a lot more market share and media attention these days. How does Bosonic plug into this growing area? And what's your forecast regarding the potential size of the total value that's locked?
It's a great question. So, look, DeFi and Web 3.0, and, I think this move to an ecosystem or an ability to transact and interact in a trustless way that's verifying counterparties and transactions as a network, I think is the beginning of a whole new paradigm for the capital markets industry. Clearly of the past, there have been these centralized models with intermediaries. I don't think we throw away everything from the past. I think we gradually transform and evolve, but certainly core infrastructure that enables both trustless as well as riskless markets is the future. And I think Bosonic, we're incredibly well placed to help power that new paradigm. And I think in terms of size, the total capital markets ecosystem is a multi-billion-dollar marketplace just in post-trade alone. And I think we've got a lot of work to do, and clearly we're not the only ones trying to do this. But I think we've got something that is truly market defining. And I think the size of the market is quite incredible when you consider the breadth of the market and what's the opportunity to create, I think, a whole new paradigm for both not only issuance, but also post-trade and capital markets off this technology.
All right, Jason, we appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.